So today we'll talk about a MedTech stock the entire market is missing, including you, I bet. I have a lot of skin in the game here. I invested my personal money here, as well as my family's money here in this stock too. So it must be something quite special, right? But anyway, yes, I have skin in the game, and I believe this microcap stock could be a multi-bagger investment. Just for you guys to know, today this company's market cap stands at only 45 million USD. Let's say 50 to make things easier, right? However, as you will see, I believe this could be, let's say, a $300 million company, for example, and that's being conservative. So yeah, over the long run, I believe this could be a 5x or even a 10x investment from the current levels. In any case, before we begin, as always, nothing in this video is investment advice, okay? And with that said, let's get started. So here is how I've structured today's video. So first we'll talk about the problem this company solves, okay? And here let me say that this is a big health issue, a big health problem, okay? Then we'll talk about their technology, about the device this company has developed, and finally we'll discuss the upside we could have here, as well as the risks. Anyway, let's begin. So first, let's talk about the massive problem this company is helping to solve. You see, in case you're not aware, heart attacks are still the #1 cause of death in the world. Millions die from heart attacks every year. Now, why is that so? You see, the biggest reason is that the symptoms of a heart attack are actually quite confusing. For example, you can feel chest pressure, discomfort, shortness of breath. However, I think it's fair to say that these symptoms are quite vague, right? I mean, it's easy to mistake them for anxiety, for example, or even gas. And because of that, many people who are beginning to have a heart attack don't fully understand the seriousness of what they are feeling and decide to stay home and wait it out until it's too late. In other words, what kills many people is the delay in getting a proper diagnosis and treatment. And that's what this company is trying to solve. Before we talk about that though, what's this company's name after all, right? So today's company is called HeartBeam, and its shares are listed on the Nasdaq ticker BEAT. And as we can see here, my average price stands at $1. But okay, how is HeartBeam, how is this company trying to address the delays in diagnosing heart attacks? You see, the gold standard way to know for sure whether what you are feeling is indeed a heart attack is through a 12-lead ECG, electrocardiogram. However, the problem is that you can typically only get one in a hospital. And as I've mentioned, most people don't decide to go to the hospital until it's already too late. But what if you could test yourself while at home? What if you could monitor your heart with a 12-lead ECG precision while sitting on your couch? Well, that's exactly what HeartBeam is trying to make possible. You see, HeartBeam has developed a 100% portable device which is the size of a credit card, and that is equivalent to a 12-lead ECG, to a hospital-grade machine. So let's say you are at home and that you've suddenly felt something strange in your chest. So instead of guessing whether it is anxiety or something more serious, you can simply pick up this device, place it on your chest, record what's happening in your heart activity, and know immediately whether your symptoms require or not some serious medical attention. In other words, with this device, you are able to tell immediately whether or not you should rush to the hospital. Oh, but that's too good to be true. Well, I agree with that. That's what I first thought when I heard about this company. However, you see, it's not just the company saying that their own device works. Okay? HeartBeam has already received the FDA's approval for its technology. And you know, from what I've researched, this device is the only one portable capable of doing that, of assessing your heart with a 12-lead ECG precision, with no cables. But anyway, as I was saying, yes, the FDA has already approved their device, their technology, and it also approved its use to detect arrhythmias. And now the company is looking to expand even further its technology indications. For example, now they are pursuing the indication for ischemia detection and heart attack detection as well. So yeah, this company's device could start being used to detect a lot of conditions. Who knows? Maybe it could become a bestseller in this industry. But anyway, so that's basically what this company HeartBeam does. HeartBeam is a technology company that has created this device that, in my opinion at least, has a ton of potential, has a ton of value. Now, one crucial thing to note regarding this investment thesis, regarding this company, is that HeartBeam is still a pre-revenue company that is operating at a loss, obviously, right? With that said, though, I think it's just a matter of time before we start seeing the first dollars coming in. After all, HeartBeam has already begun its commercial phase. It actually has just signed its first two clients, Atelier Health and Clear Cardio. In any case, let's now talk about numbers. What's the potential here after all, right? So listen to this first.
We think this is a massive opportunity. We think we can get this in the hands easily of 50 million patients, but we're doing it in a stepwise manner. So we'll talk about our market entry strategy. We're talking first about the 5 million patients that today in the US are paying, we call it structured direct pay healthcare. They're paying for a membership-based health service. 1.5 million of those, very conservatively, are those who are currently in concierge and preventive cardiology practices. That's our first market. And then we can expand into the broader group that includes direct primary care like One Medical, and then telehealth like HIMSS, etc. Beyond that 5 million, there's 20 million patients who have coronary artery disease and are at risk of having a heart attack, including 8 million people in the US who are living today with having a prior heart attack and at high risk for having a second one. Then we can get out with some of our other technologies out to 50 million plus patients who are at risk, and that includes the AI algorithms and the form factor on the patch.
So, as we've seen, in an optimistic scenario, we would be talking about 50 million potential customers, potential clients. However, HeartBeam is not going after the entire market right away. Instead, they are starting in a much smaller niche, concierge medicine and preventive cardiology. So here, as we've seen, we are talking about high-income patients who are willing to pay out of pocket for a solution like this. And as we've seen, this market consists of 1.5 potential customers, potential patients. Now, could HeartBeam capture 5% of that market, 5% of 1.5 million? So, 75,000 patients? Well, honestly, I think that's possible. Now, in case you're not aware, the company expects its annual subscription to cost somewhere between $500 and $1,000. So, let's be conservative and use the lower range, so $500. So 75,000 patients times 500, so that would represent $37.5 million in annual recurring revenue. So let's say $40 million, okay, to make things easier. And again, that's with fewer than 100,000 patients. Now, imagine if HeartBeam gets the FDA approval for heart attack detection. You think only 100,000 patients would want this device? Honestly, I think that's crazy. I think that many more people would be willing to pay for a device like this. I mean, I already want one, right? So I think that if HeartBeam really got the FDA's approval for heart attack detection, man, that would be massive. In fact, I think that in that case, millions of people would line up. So yeah, I think it's possible for HeartBeam to get to 100,000 patients over the long run. Now, would it be too aggressive to use a 5 times price to sales multiple here? Frankly, I don't think so. So $40 million in revenue times 5, that means we would get to a market cap of 200 million, which is 4 times the current levels. So that's why I think HeartBeam could indeed be a multi-bagger play, even using conservative assumptions. Another example. Here, as we can see, they say that the patch device market, which they are entering now, is a $2 billion opportunity. Now, do you think HeartBeam could capture, let's say, 3% of that? That is $60 million in revenue with their patch version? Well, that doesn't sound aggressive at all to me. So 60 million times 5, we get to a market cap of 300 million, which in turn is 6 times the current levels. So yeah, HeartBeam could indeed be a multi-bagger play if the company succeeds commercially. Now, of course they can fail, and well, that's the risk you are taking here. They can fail to scale commercially. Besides, there are other risks here as well. For example, if you are considering going long here, you need to accept that you might end up getting diluted, right? Because the company will likely need to raise more capital, and that will probably happen through dilution. Besides, it could also take years before we start seeing some profits. So yeah, I think HeartBeam is a good investment opportunity, but you need to be aware of the downsides, okay? In the end, if they don't execute, if the company doesn't deliver, we could lose 100% of our capital here, okay? So keep that in mind. And as always, let's recall that nothing in this video is investment advice, okay? But yeah, these are the risks that sometimes you need to accept to have phenomenal gains. But in the end, well, yes, you have risks, but the returns could also be phenomenal, could also be excellent. For example, what if HeartBeam gets to 500,000 patients in the future? 500,000 times 500 equals 250 million. So, in that case, we could see HeartBeam delivering $250 million in revenue. Well, 250 times 5, well, in that case, we could see HeartBeam's market cap going to something around $1.25 billion, $1.25 billion, which is more than 20 times the current levels. So yeah, that's the upside we could see here. Okay. Anyway, that was HeartBeam, the MedTech microcap the market is completely ignoring. As I've mentioned, I'm long here, and I plan to hold this position until much higher prices. Anyway, that's it for today, and see you next time.